All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to present today. Good afternoon. My name is Arthur Pantelides. I'm a professor of management here at Virginia Wesleyan. I have a technical background, and you'll see some of my presentation involves a technical background, primarily of what I had used in my industry experience for over 25 years before. Currently, I teach strategic management. I teach international business operations and supply management, and you'll see that in the presentation. Again, thank you, and we can get started. Okay. Start. Okay. So, in terms of my background, you can see here. Allow me to briefly kind of outline this a little bit. Prior to my university experience, I had spent about 25 years in heavy industry. And my professional role in heavy industry has always been started in engineering, research and development, and evolved into operations and also strategic planning. All those years was with several well-known organizations, European and Japanese organizations, and we manufactured a wide range of products. So I'm explaining this because this idea of AI and project management, this is what our idea of project management has been in the industry. These huge, large projects, in addition to the internal kind of corporate projects that we'll integrate. And you'll see in my presentation how we're going to do that. So these projects, this is a typical one, an application. This could take about 18 to 24 months to build in this wind turbine application in a wind turbine field somewhere around the world. So it can get involved. It can get involved in a lot of specific details, technical details, coordinating with suppliers, coordinating with the integrator of the project, also the customer. So this is kind of the idea, the context of what I will speak about today. Uh, Another one point thing that I wanted to make is the technical foundation for this. Um, One of the things that I have done, being a lifelong learner, I actually kind of graduated again with an engineering degree, and then kind of started work as an engineer, but then went back to work, back to school. And I kind of combined school with work, and I got my PhD. Now, my thesis was essentially in global industrial operations and also success of large projects like the ones I will talk about. Now, what you see in the screen here is, I won't bore you with this because was like 5 years work and it gets a lot of detail. But what you see is kind of the outcome of the thesis, the PhD work, where some of the project success factors were developed into logic and kind of, this logic now slowly is evolving into the industry when we talk about AI. So what data do you use? What data do you gather? What data kind of you integrate to teach AI and to teach the digital realm of how it can benefit project management. So this is again kind of the background a little bit, and you'll see that these models and algorithms that were developed years ago actually now do have some validity in terms of helping project management, especially in the area of where I was involved. Again, heavy industrial projects. So let's start. PMI has identified as the three project management areas that AI can impact. So these are the three themes. We will discuss these with an eye towards the practical business application as applied to organizations, products, and projects and systems, as I described previously. You will notice that we immediately focus on business approach. If you look at the slide, you'll see that the focus is on business. For example, we are considering stakeholders. the people of the organization. What are the effects on the operations, the systems, and the processes of the organization, which those stakeholders maintain and manage, in addition to the technical side. And finally, we look at what can we be accomplished? What can we accomplish from a strategic value creation? That's the ultimate goal. From a business point of view, that's the ultimate goal. So this is kind of the framework that I'll be discussing, the core of my presentation: assistance, automation, augmentation, with a focus towards the organization as a whole. So if I were to ask any member of the audience here, what do project managers basically do? We would have a lot of answers to that question. We would talk about management, we would talk about analysis, reporting, et cetera, et cetera. But here I kind of introduce this kind of traditional project management work arc. And I've conceptualized it. I'm a very visual person. I've conceptualized it visually. And basically, project managers, PMs, basically collect, analyze, report data. They manage teams. They make decisions in a course of action so as to produce some kind of result. And based on the introduction, the result, let's say, is a huge machine worth millions of dollars, that is going to be put on a wind turbine somewhere, that took about 2 years to actually from start to finish. So this is kind of like a typical arc, a basic kind of fundamental typical arc, that we can keep in mind when we talk about in our discussion. So in terms of assistance, let's start with that. We focus on how the technology can help stakeholders on the PM team, the project management team, but also from a business point of view, how AI goes beyond to influence the stakeholders of the entire organization, such as the tactical line managers, on the sales side of the organization. How do you integrate them with engineering, for example, in these type of projects? Customer service. How do you integrate that with the manufacturing, the production side, with customer service, who's the link to the customer, for example? Production control. How do you get all those parts together? And also procurement, your suppliers and designers and engineers. So, this is kind of like the first step in terms of AI as a seen as an assistant. One of the key areas where AI can benefit both the project manager and the organization is customer requirements. So customer requirement allocation. This is the integration of technical constraints that a customer has with stakeholder expectations and functional necessities. How will this machine? I have a concept of how this project, this machine, how is it going to function? How is it going to? What exactly do I want to get out of it? There's some sensitivities. For example, if it's a wind turbine, there's some technical specifications. But what is it? So functional customer requirement allocation, that's very important. In its simple form, currently we use AI to analyze technical specs, and harmonize these with regulatory requirements in addition to the customer requirements. Because if you keep in mind, these machines, these wind turbines, could operate, could be, a customer could be anywhere in the world. It could be in Northern Europe or Southern Europe or in the Mediterranean or in Spain or somewhere. So different areas have different actual regulatory requirements. AI can also be used to translate sometimes unclear, sometimes even unknown customer needs. The customer may not even know what they actually want. They have an idea, but specifically, how do you translate that to the technical side? And then how do you translate that to subsequent project tasks to deliver the units, to deliver the project? So AI is used primarily to harmonize these things and kind of granularize and kind of conceptualize and actually put into place in terms of the project. Okay. AI can assist with budget allocation and resource prioritization based on similar past projects that you may have in your company, past work orders in similar situations, and with what is currently happening with your business, what is happening with the industry, with a particular segment, whether it's wind turbines or power generation in oil fields or somewhere else. So that interface, those, taking those requirements and using AI to actually kind of granularize to specifications, that's important, as I mentioned, to the sales team in terms of communicating priorities to the customers, the production control, to the technical team. A lot of areas in your organization that go beyond just the project management team itself. Okay. Keeping in mind that an organization may not only do those projects, it may have other customers that don't have these major projects. However, these major projects also affect the functioning and the operation of that organization. AI is the tool that can actually streamline this within the organization. Task planning, critical path identification, these can be relatively simple for simple projects, but can become very difficult for larger, more complex projects, as we see here. This is necessary work that has to establish a baseline, in terms of planning and kind of critical path. It establishes this baseline from which good metrics can be formed and measured to identify ongoing performance issues, successful completion, timing, etc. Even scope creep can be managed by identifying these areas through AI. Data collection, as I mentioned in the previous slide, data collection, analysis, reporting, record keeping can be made much more efficient, thus enabling, and this is the key point, the project manager to focus more on higher value tasks. So AI can be used to take care of those, we can call them mundane tasks that it's easy for the technology to handle, whereas now the PM will focus more on more value-added tasks, anticipating potential problems, focusing on positively influencing the project team, motivating them, working more face to face with them, and relationship building. This is very important, and this relates to emotional intelligence, etc., which AI, I feel, instead of taking away from that, actually can provide the project manager more opportunity to develop that. Consider, for example, in terms of the PM having this data at his or her fingertips, consider, for example, having the right information readily available any given time that you need it. Better decisions can be made. They can be made faster. This adds to the project manager's credibility. It adds motivation to the team. They respect, his or her leadership capacity. It makes things easier in terms of making decisions by having this resource built into the mundane task in terms of reporting, etc. It opens up more relationship building. Many times we forget that the project management function basically is about managing. It's about managing people, right? AI provides the tool to alleviate, some of the administrative burdens, but deep down, the PM is now more focused on the stakeholders of managing essentially and running the project through people, and management is very important. The other thing we kind of identified through my work here, that real-time status summaries, communications, again, through AI, automated, including potential project changes in these designs that I mentioned, feedback to the customer, follow-up, integrating with the sales and the customer service, as I mentioned before, leads to greater satisfaction from the customer. Based on my experience, and I've seen this both ways, if the organization is behind on a project but doesn't proactively communicate, the delay to the customer gets upset. However, with these tools now, with these automated digital tools, AI, et cetera, and these proactive approaches to reporting, um, we have found that actually the customer will say, yes, I appreciate the communication. I appreciate the reporting. I understand it's behind, but they're more satisfied at least that we're communicating now with them. Um, these AI-driven meeting, summaries that we can include the customer in the loop, for example, potential project risks in terms of delays or some technical difficulties. These are all things that will increase customer satisfaction in a sense that they are now being integrated into the whole process, and it's done in an automated way. It's taking less time away from the actual project manager, and it's a very important tool for business. One of the most important metrics is repeated business from customers. And what we've seen, it's in the initial stages, but what we've seen is actually this has the potential to increase that repeated business from major customers. So the bottom line is that AI here helps with getting the right people with the right capabilities, the right information and resources at the right time. So this is kind of the important aspect in terms of the stakeholders, okay? The helping the stakeholders. Number two, in terms of automation, with assistance, we looked at, the basic AI technology for the stakeholders. Next, we look at automation. Um, we take this next step and consider a greater scope, of the basic tools that integrate into the whole organization now. Okay, so before we were kind of focusing on the project itself, the team, how that kind of starts to get out in terms of the organization. Here with automation, we look at the systems and the processes and how those are integrated with the project and their overall picture of the company and how this affects the business beyond the single project. So AI can track and analyze project tasks, timing, costs. It can loop back to budget constraints, as well as customer and regulatory requirements, as I mentioned. And it can offer accurate and efficient options as a way forward to meet desired plans. Okay. Now, if we consider scale across multiple large customers, okay, large orders, um, large projects that the organization may be working on at any given time. Let's say it could be 10 to 12 large projects that they're working on relating to this and other types of applications. That could be for oil refineries, wind turbines, or mining applications. These are all major projects, really hands-on projects. And if we deploy these tools into all functional areas of the company, AI being utilized across the whole organizational ecosystem with multiple business units, then you can see how this really can affect the whole organization, whether it's large projects or small. Because now the key thing now is we're using the technology across the whole organization, not just the projects, but how also those projects affect the systems of the organization. Data collection, analysis, utilization. We can use this for better accuracy, efficiency, optimizing, the systems of the organization, corporate systems analysis and streamlining, modeling. We can do scenario planning, predictive analytics, and risk management, again, throughout the business itself, through multiple business units. Areas such as production control, procurement, purchasing, design, engineering, Um, they are integrated for this optimization now. Slowly AI has been rolled out to include all of them, and effects can be granular to such a level if you approach the the introduction of AI into your organization. They can be granularized to such a level to even go down to the machining times of the specific machines that cut those specific gears. Now, I won't go back, but if you, and you'll see the diagram again, the picture of the equipment again, one of those gears could be the size of, a large table. Those gears are not cut, in a couple of hours. Those gears are cut in a matter of weeks in some cases. So you can see that if we use AI in terms of our production system, you can see how it can prioritize for multiple projects, multiple locations, also affecting non-project customers of use of some of these machines. So it can become a very important tool, down to the machining time for something, for a component or a part, even down to human resources. Do we have to hire, say, factory personnel to manage something in terms of a major project? Asset management, in terms of maintenance of the machines, balancing company operational performance with customer needs. That's very important. Reporting takes multiple forms here, from operational performance insights, internal operations, but also predictive project analytics, external projects. And then customers, again, when now under this kind of systems approach, when we talk about customers, we're not only talking about the external customer, but we're also talking about the internal departmental customers of the organization, and how, again, this thing flows, this project or multiple projects flow within the organization, balancing out multiple priorities. We can consider optimal value system options geared for cost, performance, and balance, and time for delivery. Again, keeping in mind delivery is global, again, for multiple projects, etc. This also impacts global purchasing, procurement, resources, scheduling, allocation, production location selections. If you are a manufacturer and you have multiple strategic business units, SBUs, what is the most optimal location to balance out these large projects? These are all part of kind of this approach to automating your systems to balance needs of all stakeholders, constituents, now from a systems point of view of how do you optimize your operations. And basically, you kind of take this and you extrapolate it. And, there's visualization, there's kind of dashboards and things like that. You can do risk analysis. And this becomes now not only a project management tool, it becomes an operational tool, and also it becomes an executive tool in making decisions in terms of operations management. Again, one of my areas in the past, operations management and supply chain. So this can become a really, really strong tool, to kind of bring everything together in terms of a multiple business kind of approach. Okay. The third area is augmentation. Again, PMI's kind of concept is augmentation. And the way we, the organizations that I work for and kind of relate to, how do you use that in terms of augmenting, again, not only a project management approach, but augmenting your organization itself in terms of delivering greater value? Here, with augmentation, we're looking forward. Okay. With stakeholders, we were kind of concerned at the microcosm of the project, how it kind of relates to the boundaries of the organization. With automation, we look at the systems of the organization, kind of a greater scope. And those were kind of snapshots of that present time. With augmentation, what we're looking at is, well, how do we use the previous two to also now look forward in terms of bringing strategy in this, delivering greater value, and kind of looking at how does the organization fit into the industry, and what could be the strategic fit in terms of what the organization can do within the industry. So augmentation is looking forward. So here we are looking at both customer projects and organizational projects. Okay, the external revenue creators, the customer projects, with the organizational projects like R&D. Should we be developing a new design? Should we developing something, for example, what's going on now is an integration of solar energy with wind turbine. Okay, no, that's an internal kind of R&D, industry driven, but that's an internal project. There's no specific order for that. So how do you balance that? And how do you take that and kind of, extrapolate to value for your organization in the future? Okay, those R&D dollars that you're kind of handling now, or kind of costing now, is not really giving you anything today. Okay, and you still have to manage your customers' projects, the actual orders, but how do you do the R&D now towards a kind of idea for the future where better orders will come in based on what you're doing? So what you're doing is essentially balancing, once again, your sales optimization, from large customers, your current operational efficiencies, in terms of what you have available in terms of your operations, your resources, et cetera, with the internal strategic project costs of your organization moving forward. And again, AI, if you roll it into in a successful kind of manner, can really kind of embed itself in your organization, what we've seen, in a really optimal way to balance your business. That's the important thing. The additional thing here is, besides these three that I mentioned, now you're also bringing in an external factor, is the market and how the market is evolving. Okay, this is where data becomes a little bit more complicated in terms of structured versus unstructured, because you're actually, in some cases with AI, of course, we know that with AI you need to kind of structure your data, label your data, et cetera, which we'll talk in a few minutes about. But now you're pulling in data from other sources as well. Okay, so data has to flow into your organization, and from the market, how the market is evolving, because now again, you're looking how your organization will fit into the market in the industry with an eye towards the future, kind of moving forward in terms of strategy. In these situations, sometimes with these balances, I've run into situations where sometimes you have to say no to a customer. Maybe there's a huge project order, it could be several $1,000,000, and it's not for you at that moment because you may not have the capacity. Okay, AI makes those decisions clearer. It makes those decisions in a more unbiased way. Imagine, if you will, you're the leader of an organization, you're the CEO, whatever, and your sales team is basically telling you, look, I got this customer, it's a complicated order, huge project order, it's going to take 12 months or 18 months or so, but we really need it. Okay, maybe their commission is based on that, who knows? But you have to have the discipline through the AI decision driven kind of approach to say, hey, look, maybe that order is not for us. We really have our resources here in this R&D development that's going to, kind of bear fruit 3 to 5 years down the road. So this is what AI actually can do in terms of identifying areas and kind of augmenting your decision capabilities with an eye towards the future, which is the third aspect, which is important in terms of growth. growth and value creation. You know, with this, you can achieve a better balanced portfolio. Okay. And when I say portfolio, again, not only the customer side, but also the internal side. Um, this leads to this potentially is, you know, gathering of data, kind of balancing, not only leads to better operational efficiencies, but it also leads to um, an organization that has the potential for knowledge discovery. And what do I mean by that? You know, going back to my knowledge management time before, when you take all these parts and put them together, and in some areas, again, some of the Japanese side, et cetera, they've done this very, very well in terms of like a knowledge creating organization. When you put these things together, you can put them in such a way that actually you can develop insights. You can develop insights not only for the industry and designs of a, you know, let's say a solar powered wind turbine or whatever, but you can develop kind of insights to your operational efficiencies. That, in addition to having, you know, more kind of people driven approach, having this tool that frees up project managers to kind of deal more with people, that combination together can really provide a competitive advantage of the culture of your company. The culture of your organization can become a strategic advantage. And again, from a teaching strategy and looking at these different consulting opportunities that I have, that's very hard to imitate from a competitor. So a competitor can potentially copy a design if it's public, whatever, but it's hard for a competitor to imitate and copy your culture. So by using this tool, by looking at these three levels, by looking at, you know, also using it for looking at your future and how you develop your company in terms of strategic value, that's a tough thing to beat. And we're looking at things right now where how does that help us develop strategic advantages that are hard to duplicate from competitors? How do we use AI in order as one aspect of this to do that? Not only, you know, from the customer side, and this is important. This is important because, as I mentioned, it's hard for a competitor to beat that. To beat that. Okay. Here, very, very quickly, I want to show you just a quick snapshot of a simplified dashboard. This is fairly a couple of years ago. What we've used in the discussion I just mentioned. This is kind of a dashboard, an output of where an organization has one business unit of the organization, has potentially 33 internal corporate projects. Okay, again, looking at moving forward, these potential projects are not revenue generators. They're not customer related projects. These have to be balanced with the customer projects. So this organization has kind of these 33 projects that they have to evaluate. AI will look at things like the revenue plan of the organization, the IBT strategy, the market strategy. This is kind of, you know, the strategy of the organization based on what the industry and the market is doing, customer strategies, et cetera. You can see there at the top, it takes those factors, those variables, that data, it brings it into the system, it compares, you know, all these things in terms of these possible 33 internal projects, filters it down, and basically, again, I just conceptualize it here, basically says, well, short term, this will give you this, okay, in terms of a system structure, a revised product potential down the road. You know, long term, it'll give you better efficiencies for your organization, which again, efficiencies, optimized growth, you know, things like this. Those are part of your culture. how you do business. Again, I kind of refer to the Japanese side because they're very competitive. Um, this is an example of balancing not only those customer side but also the internal corporate project side. Again, to create this kind of unique kind of strategic advantage that's hard to duplicate. So, kind of wrapping up this portion real quick, this is what we talked about. This growth perspective. Okay, using AI. With from the basics, automatic reporting. That's very very basic. To actually providing knowledge insight and knowledge growth for organization from an augmentation strategic point of view. Again, with assistance, we focused on stakeholders, on individual projects, the here and now. We saw this spillover I mentioned in terms of the overall organization, the operations. With automation, we focused on integration of projects with the entire network, the business units, the systems. How do you optimize purchasing, production control, stocking based on different requirements you have, and aligning your strategies? With augmentation, we look at the bigger picture, a forward look, a higher kind of perspective. What is the strategic advantage, globally, if it's a global organization, that I can use this tool to help balance my people, my systems, and processes to create better value. Okay, this is the focus towards the future. So this slide kind of incorporates that into kind of a summary. Okay. All right. So I'll spend a few minutes to look at this case here. Okay. Let me take a few minutes, and I'm going to read some of the notes and kind of take you with specifics. So what we've discussed. The design of these drives, and this may not be the specific drive, but generally these are large drives, maybe 3 meters high, or 3 or 4 meters in diameter. So we're talking about a lot of huge sizes. The design of these is very complex. It requires customer project orders specific that come in and takes actually weeks to finalize. This is where customer requirement allocation comes in, also with the regulatory side. It's something that you don't stock. Okay, there's an organization that will stock these units. Again, these units are very big. So these are customized based on order to order. There's couplings, there's connections, there's generators, there's auxiliary equipment that have to be fit in. They have to be ordered in some cases from other suppliers, which can take weeks. So if we consider the whole value system, all right, we're talking about the suppliers of the main drive. We're talking about the suppliers of some of the parts. We're talking about the integrators, the contractors for the project. We're talking about also then the customer or the final end user. Your customer of that drive that's in the center may not be the final end user. The final end user is actually the customer of your customer. So it can get complicated. So we're looking at 4 to 5 specific primary nodes in this value system. Okay. These typical large scale 12 to 18-month projects. So where AI really kind of fits in here in terms of a project management like this sort? Well, AI will harmonize competing customer requirements into specific technical specs. The customer may say, well, I want this vibration to be this magnitude. Then that will affect supports. It will affect bearings that you can see there. It'll affect design of the gear. What AI will do is actually take those requirements and kind of ping other data information to see what is the balance of the specific technical design that can be done in order to meet that requirement. In some cases, it'll say, look, I can't meet this requirement or this decibel noise level or whatever, but I can meet this one, and looks at trade-offs. AI is used to integrate international regulatory requirements into these specs as well. Um, these units can be, these wind turbines, for example, can be in different parts of the world. Different parts of the world have different regulatory requirements, and those have to be spec'd. You don't want to create a machine that's worth millions of dollars or a field of machines and then realize that you're not meeting some spec. That would not be a good thing. Okay. AI is used to combine multiple information sources to optimize procurement and manufacturing, um, uh, costs, materials, labor estimations, and it can be used to provide a competitive quotation. So even before we design anything or physically do anything, we have to provide a quotation to the customer, to our customer, as the manufacturers of the drive. AI will actually take information. We've done this in the past, obviously. Now it's more automated, it's easier, it's faster. A quotation will not take 6 weeks to create, it may take 6 days. AI can simulate supply chain performance from your suppliers. It can offer optimal project plan based on the supplier's capacity, their work, and also minimize delivery delay risks, verify the quality, make sure that the quality is there. These gears that you see in some cases, you can get them in different quality. It will affect the noise. There's certain requirements on the noise of these turbines, et cetera, et cetera. Everything is kind of integrated together. AI can be used with rapid prototyping, with test requirements. Some of these have to be tested before they leave the factory. And then how do you embed those tests, which can run 1,000 hours in some cases, within your project? Optimal resourcing, reliability, transit times, I've mentioned, the production capacity, even personnel expertise. You may have an organization with thousands of individuals, hundreds of engineers, thousands of individuals, and if you use AI in terms of embedding it into your corporate system in terms of a portal as well, it can identify people who have a specific expertise in an area. Let's say a customer has a requirement in terms of, measuring some decibel noise level or something. Well, let's say you have an engineer that's specialized in acoustic engineering somewhere in South Africa or something within your organization. If you use AI combining requirements with personnel, HR systems, et cetera, it can identify, maybe bring that person into to say Germany to do the test, et cetera, et cetera. It makes things easier, and it enables integration to optimize the performance of your entire organization. It can generate status reports, as I mentioned, to suppliers, contractors, the customers, the end users. It can create test protocols, as I mentioned, to validate equipment, et cetera. And then finally, once this is in the field, you have to test it. It creates test protocols and troubleshooting data, et cetera, and resolution in the field, mobile. And then finally, it can provide a maintenance kind of program from start all the way to finish. Again, these units, especially if you integrate them with condition monitoring. Condition monitoring is the electronic side. Is the unit, is the vibration getting a little bit higher than normal? Well, we need to stop it. Maybe the bearings have an issue, or the gears are starting to have an issue. Well, let's stop it before the whole thing kind of explode. And I'm sure you've seen online, some of these things will catch fire if you don't do anything with them, these wind turbines. So if you use artificial intelligence, data analysis, et cetera, integrated into your condition monitoring, it can provide an optimal non-downtime with these systems. So there's a lot of things that you can do from a business point of view. So the new project management work, is kind of conceptualized here, and I would focus your attention on the right side of the screen, right? We can use AI on the left, collect data, analyze, report, but on the right, we're starting to get into the management, but the decision, the deciding, now going into leading, that the project manager now has more opportunity to do, of leading the team, et cetera. That's important. So that's the focus on the people, right? AI will free up the PM to focus on developing better interpersonal skills, as I mentioned, soft skills, collaborative leadership skills, emotional intelligence, better influencing. And we feel, we're kind of seeing this, we feel that it'll strengthen not only him or her as the PM, but also it'll enable projects to be more optimal, more optimized, and the team will have a better kind of success image of their performance, and will this slowly will actually roll out into the whole organization. um, it'll actually improve your organization, as I mentioned, and slowly potentially improve the culture and the whole ethos of your company, which is something that's hard to duplicate in terms of a strategic advantage from a competitor. Um, in addition, in terms of, now the focus is on leading, not so much managing, but leading. Um, the project manager, he or she will now understand how projects fit into the bigger picture of the company, how the value is not only that single project. I'm not just looking at a single project, but now I'm seeing the bigger picture of that project within the whole organization. They will develop a better concept of the entire organization, not just a singular project. Their deliverables will evolve to include not just the product to the customer, but the value to the customer, the actual value to the customer, as well as the value to the company itself that they're working in. The PM will better understand the organization's realities within the market, their limitations potentially in terms of operations and systems and processes. And then they should also understand how things fit into a forward projection of where the organization's going. Okay. It will create this mindset of forward looking value creation from a business sense, not only, let's say, a technical engineering sense, because generally the old style here, these project managers were generally engineers. Okay. All right. Try to wrap up a little bit, try to go a little bit quicker. In terms of implementation, how do you implement an AI project, AI? This could be a whole presentation by itself. I'm going to give you one slide. I have some notes here, but generally, this is the approach. Okay. If your organization does make a decision to implement AI, generally, what we found with the companies I work with, there's basically two basic phases. There's the preparation phase, or the foundation phase one, and then the actual production phase. Here, production is AI going into your organization. Phase two. One of the most important things you should do is understand your processes. Understand, for example, the order, the large customer order. How does it come in? How does it come into your organization? Who touches that order when it comes in? Why do they touch it? Is it needed? So you need to understand your systems, your kind of the flow of that order. How does that flow with non-standard orders versus project standard orders, etc. Once you do that, you also understand the data flows. You're mapping and you're understanding the data flows of your organization, which is extremely important. Once you understand your data flows, then you start organizing these, structuring them, preparing them, labeling them, identifying, structuring this information. Because what you have to do in the next step is you have to buy some middleware, some interface that would take your legacy flows, your legacy data that you have, and now prepare it to communicate with the AI system or the AI software or the AI kind of approach that you're going to take. So that is kind of the initial things. And in number 04 there, you have to establish the roadmap. So now you're planning the project, which will be in 1 to 8 below. Okay, so this is kind of, the steps you take in terms of, how you approach an AI integration into the organization. What we found is this TS team, basically it's a tech members and also, stakeholders. That's what TS stands for. It has to be a combination. You're going to have the technical people. Under no circumstances should your AI integration implementation be only on the technical side. You need a representative from every department because they're the ones who understand the flow of these projects and the flow of the organization, obviously. So you need two aspects here: the technical side and the business side, and you also need a executive kind of coach or executive representative, because in many situations you're going to have to make decisions, and decisions from the executive side and from the stakeholder side, the different departments, need to be understood from a kind of a business case approach for the AI implementation, the value it's going to create. Okay, I've been to organizations where they started integrating IT systems and technical systems years ago, and then he ended up just failing because they really didn't fit into the business. So this is something that's you have to be very, very careful here. And of course, obviously, the communication, the education of your people, they have to have buy-in. They have to understand why we're doing this, how they fit in. As long as they understand how they fit in, as long as they understand through their representative how their job will be affected, hopefully in a positive way, you'll have more buy-in into your organization in terms of the implementation of AI. Okay, and then the last topic I want to mention is this cultural approach, the cultural framework. Now, once again, I've only had a few minutes here, but once again, the idea here with culture is you can spend 3 hours talking about culture. What we found is culture of the organization has to be approached at three levels. Okay, it's the national culture, which means, are you a German company in origin? Are you a Japanese company? Are you a Chinese company? That's what national culture means. And there's a whole wild study of that. Gert Hofstede, a famous Dutch social psychologist, have done years and years and years of studies, developed these factors that actually relate to your employees from that country that your company's from. So that's the higher level. That's a national culture point of view. The next level is your organizational culture. What's the culture of your organization within that national level? Is it a cutthroat culture? Is everybody competing against each other? Is it in one particular industry versus another industry, which does affect the corporate culture, organizational culture? Is it focused more of it and its employees versus the work? Right? That's a huge thing. Is it means versus goals? Is it customer oriented versus specific financial objectives? And this also plays a role. Believe it or not, this combination of national culture and organizational culture let's say Japanese and an organizational culture that's geared towards customer. A lot of the Japanese organizations that I've worked with, that I've seen, are very, very customer driven, very customer driven, in addition to the quality. If you combine that, there's been studies where the the least negative approach to AI is Japanese organizations. They'll adopt AI very, very, let's say, let's use the word easily. On the other hand, if you look at British organizations, they're both island nations, right? Japan and Britain. They have really kind of a negative view of AI. And we're kind of studying this now and seeing, what are the social cultural factors in terms of organizations and where they're from, et cetera, and adopting AI in the culture aspects. The third level is your team, your functional team culture, right? The team members, their mindset. And again, this is just a graphic from the PhD thesis that I talked about before. How do you put together the team to kind of, I don't want to say assure success of the initiative, but stack the deck for you to make the probability of success better, right? Higher. So how do you use this? What are the factors that you use, whether it's from national culture, organizational culture, et cetera, to create an optimal team, which that team and that PM, whether it's an American guy or a Japanese guy or a German guy or whatever, that PM will be the optimal combination to drive that initiative. So culture, just keep in mind, culture essentially is at these three levels and has to be addressed. This could take hours and hours to go into detail. It's a great thing to know, but our time is limited here. Okay, and to wrap things up, the takeaways. What are the takeaways here? Well, we have three themes. Okay, of AI and project management, and these are from PMI, right? They've developed this idea of assistance, automation, augmentation. What we have done is taken those and kind of expanded the role to look at assistance for the human side, the stakeholder support, right? Automation from the system side, right? The operation side, right? You have the people and you have the systems. You put them together, and then you move to the third one in terms of augmentation to deliver greater value for the organization. This is kind of the approach that the company that I'm working for is kind of moving in terms of AI adoption and utilization to create, a better strategy, better value creation, and strategic advantages that potentially will be hard to duplicate from competitors. Okay, that was kind of the approach we took in this discussion. Another 3 points is you should understand that based on the data today, and it's widely available through PMI or the European organizations, that AI in project management has already begun. It's already begun. Number one. Number two, AI integration into your business systems is critical for growth. Your competitors will be doing it. So it's critical that you do it, especially if you're a complicated organization that is positioned globally. You're handling products like I've shown you in terms of huge, huge projects worldwide that are complicated, technically complicated, right? So this technology is necessary. If you're going to be competitive, it's necessary. And then three, and then I'm sorry I rushed the culture side a little bit, but cultural understanding and transformation is necessary for successful implementation. For you to implement that step-by-step process that I mentioned, you have to understand your organizational culture. You have to understand the three levels, right? Even the implementation team, the TS team, the implementation team, what should be the composition? How do these people kind of think about what's going on? Okay. And then, as I mentioned, cultural understanding is very, very important. These are kind of the, the 3 or 4 takeaways from this presentation. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'd like to thank the University of Applied Science and Arts of Southern Switzerland for giving me the opportunity. I appreciate that.
Thanks
I
to
hope
you, Arthur.
it's interesting. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Um,